I'm sure I do. There you go. Isn't this like 3 packets now? You ripped out the last one.
Oh yeah. It was a month. So I'll let you read it.
Who should do it? Nobody? Oh, I thought you were going to hear it. All right, fair enough. Avery, we'll go with Avery. What? Why not? Okay. At the beginning of this packet, if I remember correctly, the very first page was us solving equations by doing the opposite. Like, I think that was the first page, was 1-step, 2-step equations, things like that. So once we got to equations like this, doing the opposite to try to solve it won't help. I'm not sure the best way to phrase this question, Avery. Why can't I just like do the opposite to find an answer to this? Like, why can't I subtract 4, or, you know? Well, so we had to learn factoring, quadratic formula, like we used the graph. We had to learn different ways to solve these. Okay? Does anybody know what I'm trying to ask? No? No, we're going to get to a page in a minute. I'm trying to explain to you why we're doing this different section today. See? We're not there yet. Does anybody know why we can't solve that top one by just like doing the opposite? Something tells me you know, you just maybe not sure how to explain it. Okay, can we solve the bottom one by just doing the opposites? Does anybody think we can we solve this one without doing quadratic formula or anything like that? Okay. So on this bottom one, most of you would probably add 16. And then you probably know the answer is 4. Right? 4 squared is 16. Did your brain really shut off? I'll be honest, it looks like your brain is completely shut down. I am really glad I gave the test on Thursday now. On this top one, if I subtract a 4, why can't I find the final answer if I just subtract 4? Okay, here's what I was looking for. The top one has 2 different kind of letters. You've got an x squared and you've got a regular x. The bottom one just has one type of letter, it has an x squared. If you have an equation that has 2 different kind of letters, you have to solve it by factoring or quadratic formula. And for some of you, you very much dislike that. Nothing wrong with that. The second half of the chapter that we're doing now is we're gonna learn different ways to solve these when there's only one type of letter, one type of variable. So like this one, we just have an x squared, so we could do the opposites to solve it. Okay, Avery, do you want to answer this one at least? Then we'll make it very different type of question. Nice. See, I told you, I was making it very. Most of you are pretty good with that. Square root right now. Okay. So I'll put this same equation up. Now, we can solve this one by doing the opposites. We can do this one by doing the opposite. The square root symbol is the opposite of the square. So we're going to do the square root of both sides to cancel off a square. But then here's the part that's different between these. So the answer to this isn't just 4. It's plus or minus 4. So if I go back to the original problem that didn't have the square root symbol, like everybody in their head automatically knows 4 squared is 16. But negative 4, if you squared, is also 16. So this is going to be the difference between these two. And it's usually the most annoying difference for students. Is you have to learn that the square root of a squared is plus and minus. So this will be the first thing you write in your packets, and I'll show you in a second. Actually, I'll just go straight there. There's a page in your packet. That one. I don't know, it's like halfway through. It's right after factoring. There you go. Okay, now, I'm not too worried about the top half of this page. So, Mr. Caponigri set up the top half of this page because that's how he kind of teaches it to you, and that's fine. But I kind of laid out slightly different, so I don't want to confuse you by going through this. SADMET, if you're wondering, is how you use PEMDAS in reverse. Okay, but up at the top of your page, put that. If you've got a little highlighter, you guys, if you want to sit by each other, you got to actually like watch their notes. If you have a highlighter, that would be a good thing to highlight. Because that's something you're going to want on your cheat sheet when we get to that point. And all it's saying is if you do the square root of a squared, it's plus or minus. If you have a square root symbol on its own, there's no plus or minus. Like if you're just doing the square root of 16, that's 4. And it definitely is kind of confusing and weird, but that's all right. We'll work through it. Okay, so we've got x squared equals 64. Avery, who's going to help us go next? Oh, well, unless you want to answer again, but I didn't think you did. Okay, Bella. My goal is, I just want x. So I want to cancel off that little squared symbol. How do I cancel off that squared symbol? What's the opposite of squared, I guess? Yeah, literally the thing you were supposed to write at the top of your page. There we go. Okay, so we're going to take the square root of both sides. And this works only because there's only one type of letter in all these problems. So that's what you're going to see kind of today, tomorrow, this week. Okay, Bella, do you want to answer? Do you want somebody else to go? Okay. What would be the answer? Square root of 64. Oh, FYI, absolutely, you guys can do calculators if you want to, need to today. Don't feel like 8. Okay? So then what would I write as the answer? So square root of 64 is 8. But I would write. What did you write at the top of your piece of paper? Or did you not? Plus and minus 8. And that's because negative 8 squared is 64 and 8 squared is 64. If you guys are doing the square root to cancel off a square, the answer is going to be plus and minus. What? You guys are having issues focusing today.
Is it the first day of nice weather?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, all week is supposed to be nice, so we kind of have to learn to manage it. I mean, if you're trying to make fun of my legs at this point, you go for it. I've heard it every single year.
I like them.
I haven't heard that. I'm actually quite shocked. Sarge hasn't come in here yet to talk about how ghosts like my legs are. He likes to try to say that they're light bulbs on the beach. And I'm okay. I don't really care. I wear shorts because they're comfortable. I will have you guys know that I put on socks with my sandals today, though. At the beginning of the year, I was yelled at for not wearing socks with them. Why is that the thing now? Okay? That's literally what I heard multiple times per day, is not to let the dogs out. Okay, Grayson, do you want to call somebody for me? Did you say no? Or just pick a number, I mean, whatever. Okay. 10, 11, 12, Kai. So, I'm looking at this one right here. What's going to be the opposite of squared?
What? Oh, is it like basically dividing by like 36? Is that what you're trying to do?
Square root.
I'm trying to find
I think you were in the bathroom when we did the last problem. Okay, so square root is going to be the opposite of squared. That's when we cancel that out. Okay? Now, once we do the square root to the squared, did you write it at the top of your paper? Okay, anytime you do the square root of a square, the answer will be plus or minus. So, what times itself is 36? 6, so we would write the answer as plus and minus 6. We'll only do a couple more of these because they're just very straightforward. Kai, you can either pick on a person or a number. They already went.
Well, I'm gonna pick Z.
What'd you need? Okay, I was gonna say, you literally have 2 people next to each other with Z's. Yeah. We got, oh, did you say Z's?
Yeah.
Oh, got it. That makes way more sense. Let's, just tell me what to do, give me the whole thing right away for the final answer. It's only April. It's not even May yet. Abdulaziz, pick somebody else. I'm not. This should be something you should be able to answer like within seconds. Jaden, I saw you trying to explain it to him a little bit. Do you think you could tell me what should I do? What's the answer? Oh my gosh.
You know, put the square on x,
Nice.
and then
Okay.
x equals what's this minus 12.
Close. I'm okay that you don't know the square root of 121 off the top of your head. Like, I'm not worried about that part, because you guys can always use your calculator to find the square roots. I was more concerned with how would I go through it and get the answer. Yeah?
Introduce like tapping the calculator like with the part. I don't know how to say it.
Square root?
Yeah, this can be that.
That is what we're doing.
Oh my God.
Good. Hey, your calculator's not gonna tell you plus and minus. Oh, but yeah, that's absolutely. So if you don't know the square root of 121 off the top of your head, you just put it in the calculator. Yeah, that's fine. Carly. So we get down to this one, and it's very close, but not exactly the same. You guys gotta stop. You guys have to learn how to pay attention when we're doing stuff together. You will get plenty of time on your own. What would we have to do first on this one? Like equals 0 is what we wanted for all the problems before. But that doesn't work when we're trying to solve by doing the opposites. So what would we do first when we're doing the opposites? Yep, so you're gonna add 100 both sides. This last step should come pretty quickly to you after a little bit. You probably don't swear it on, right? It's gonna be super easy to forget the plus and minus one. That's kind of why I started off with that, because that's gonna be the part that you'll forget a lot. Okay, we're gonna go to the next page, because this whole page is pretty much all the same. Mason? What would I do first if I'm trying to solve by doing the opposite up here? Good? You guys have to learn how to hold it down. Okay, add 36 to both sides. I think you guys are pretty good at solving by doing the opposites, just from practicing over the years. We need more on this side. Bella, what would I probably do next? So my goal is to get the x all by itself. Perfect. So this is the same as what we used to do. And then at the end, it'll say x squared instead of x. So then we would, Bella, oh. I thought you were going to keep going. Yep.
Oh, square root.
Square root. You get plus or minus 3. So you guys will start seeing the square roots often enough that you'll probably start remembering them and not needing to use the calculator as much. Okay. Stephanie, feel like you can handle the challenge-ish ones? If not, I certainly could just guide and help you too. On the right-hand side, what would we do first? This problem. Like FOIL? If we did that, then it would turn into the problem that we would have to solve by factoring quadratic formula. Not that there's nothing wrong with that, if that's what you prefer, but on this one, we're trying not to do that. So, if our goal is to get the x all by itself, we're trying to like do the opposite. We're trying to do the opposite to cancel off things along the way. So the first thing we want to cancel is that minus 9. So how would we cancel off minus 9? Add 9. Okay? Now, when I'm looking at this problem, the x that we're trying to get all by itself is inside that parentheses. And so what I would look at to try to cancel things off is I need to get rid of that parentheses. That parentheses is there because of the square. So I want to cancel off the squared next, just because of where it is. It's not always going to go the same order. You're basically always just going to cancel off whatever's in the way of getting x by itself. So the square is the next thing we need to cancel. What would I write on the left-hand side? Grace? What would I write on the left-hand side if I cancel off that square? Perfect. So basically, we just cancel off the squared symbol only, and x plus 4 is what's left on the left-hand side. And on the right, I would write plus and minus 3. Now, I want to emphasize, there's not going to be a certain order that we're always going to do these problems. Your goal is always just to kind of like cancel things that are in the way of the x being by itself. Okay, so square root of 9 turns into plus and minus 3. Zabi? What would I do next? I want to get x by itself, so there's only one thing there that's kind of not, or one thing with it. How do I cancel out the plus 4? Okay, good. And then I get plus and minus 3 minus 4. Serena? Do you remember how to use the plus and minus when we did quadratic formula? Yeah, okay, so it basically means it's two separate things. So this means positive 3 minus 4 and negative 3 minus 4. The plus and minus means it's two separate answers. Now we don't ever care if the plus and minus is the only number like as the answer. That just means it's two answers. But if there's other things with it, then we kind of have to make sure to finish it. So 3 minus 4 would be negative 1. Negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. How are we feeling on these two at the top? This is kind of like so-so. Why don't you guys take 5 minutes, use your calculators, try to solve these three right here. So, try to solve those three if you can. actually, Mikey, when you get done with the first one, do you want to come up and write it up there? And if you need some help with it, you can certainly ask people around you, or come ask me. Grayson, when you get done with the middle one, do you want to go up there and write that? Oh, okay. Who else is gone? Said what? Well, the work and the answers. Yeah. Good. Kenzie? How about the third one? Okay. Fine. Mikey, do you want some help on that first one? Okay, coming up. Oh, bring your bag in. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Well, oh, I thought you wanted help with it. Oh, gotcha. Okay. So, our goal is to try to get this by itself. So we're trying to just like cancel off things around it. This one's the farthest away, so it's going to be the first one we cancel. So how do we cancel that one? Okay, good. We've got negative 7x squared is negative 28. If we have a multiply and a power, the first one you get rid of is going to be multiply. That's what this sad map is for, if you need it. So how do I get rid of the negative 7? It sounds correct, but that's only if it's being subtracted. So like right now, this is negative 7 times x squared, so we divide by it. Okay, so then we have x squared equals 4. Yep. Yeah. And both of you can write at the same time. Oh, you want me to check it quick? Sure. Plus 6. Kind of. You did it right. So you see how you wrote plus 6 under here?
Yeah.
But then over here you put it minus.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's okay, because if you would have typed that in your calculator, it would have told you error.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything else is perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Do you want it?
So minus 4, 5, so we got 9, and... Okay, first two that are up there are correct so far. Plus and minus 2 is the first answer. Second answer, 9 and 1 is correct. And then the third one, plus or minus 10 is correct. Now, out of those three, do you guys want me to explain some steps, go over different parts? The goal every time is just to do the opposite to cancel the things that are there. The hard part to figure out is kind of what order to cancel out. So for me personally, I traditionally just kind of cancel things that are farthest away and then go in closer towards the x. So like say that very first one, then plus 28 is the farthest away, so I cancel that first. Then you've got negative 7x squared. They're both directly on the x, but a power, that's where SADMEP comes into play. That's written on the top of your page. When you do PEMDAS, parentheses and exponents are first. So when you're trying to solve, they're the last things you get rid of if there's a tie. So like this -7 and the squared are both directly on it, so they're tied. So you're going to get rid of the multiply first. So you divide by -7, and then you get rid of the squared last. The SAD mep is only going to be used if things are tied. That tells you the order like of importance, I guess. Most of the problems we get, there isn't going to be really ties. You're just going to cancel things off along the way. Like the middle one, you cancel the +16 first. And then the -5 is directly on the x, but the squared is on both of them, so you have to cancel off the squared next. And then the third one basically is very similar to the first one. Are we feeling like we could try these on our own probably now? Okay, excellent. So the homework, whatever we want to call this, not intended to bring home. The homework is going to be the next page in the packet. There should be a solid page of these problems. You don't have to do that graph. I know there's a graph there to do, but you don't have to do that. Basically just solve I think there's 7 problems to solve. That's going to be the work to work on.